9 o'clock, so let's go ahead and we'll convene our meeting today. Before we get started, would everybody like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call to order the February 7th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Regents. Roll call, please.
Regent Adidam. Here. Regent Thavaro. Regent Herbin. Here. Regent Schroeder.
Here.
Regent Claire. Regent Kenny. Regent O'Connor. Regent Schaefer.
Here.
Regent Shear.
Here.
Regent Stark.
Here.
Regent Whites.
Here.
Regent Wilmot.
Here.
Okay, it's my understanding Regent Kenny's participating off-site via Zoom. Okay, there we can see him. Paul, are you able to communicate with us?
I think you're on mute.
Say again? We're having trouble with the audio. You try turning up the volume on your computer. Regent Kenny, are you there? You can hear him? He can hear you. He can hear us. We can't hear you. Maybe that's a good thing. Okay. All right. Be that as it may, let's go ahead and we'll move forward. We'll let our folks over there in the technical side of things work out those issues. In your materials, you have copies of the minutes from the meeting of December 6th, 2024. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Are there any corrections to the minutes? If not, roll call, please.
Regent Thavaro. Student Regent Herbin.
Yes.
Student Regent Schroeder.
Yes.
Student Regent Adidam.
Yes.
Regent Kenny. Regent Schaefer.
Yes.
Regent Shear.
Yes.
Regent Stark.
Yes.
Regent Whites.
Here. Yes.
Regent Wilmot.
Yes.
Regent Claire.
Okay. In compliance with the Nebraska Open Meetings Act, the board has posted a copy of the act near the south door to the entrance of the boardroom. So if anybody has any questions, that's there. And we'll turn now to a couple of our guest speakers, the first of which is Senator John Arch, Speaker of the Legislature. It is my honor to introduce Senator Arch, who was elected in 2018 and re-elected in 2022. Senator Arch represents District 14, which includes parts of Sarpy County, encompassing La Vista and Papillion. In January 2025, Senator Arch was unanimously re-elected as Speaker of the Legislature, a position he has held since 2023. Prior to his legislative career, Speaker Arch had an extensive career in healthcare, working in administration spanning over 34 years, with his most recent role as Executive Vice President of Healthcare and Director of the National Research Hospital and Clinics for Boys Town. Mr. Speaker, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. President Gold, Chair Schaefer, members of the Board of Regents, chancellors, I really do appreciate the invitation. The opportunity to talk to you a little bit about what's happening in the legislature this year and what I anticipate for the remainder of our session. So we're off and running. We had 16 new senators that joined us this year. That's quite the transition out of 49, and number 17 was actually one that was returning, who had been there before. The committees are functioning well. We adopted our permanent rules. we have begun our half-day bill debates, and we've already moved 34 bills off of general file onto select, and so we're seeing some good movement on bills. One of the things that I did this year, which is a little bit different, was instructed our committee chairs, and by the way, we had 10 new committee chairs out of 15, and we instructed the new committee chairs that they would bring out some consensus-type bills, good government bills, and we are learning with 16 new senators how to process those bills, and the debate has gone well on the floor, and as well as in the committee. We did have fewer bills introduced this year for a long session, 715 bills versus 820 in 2023, our last long session. And the committee hearings now will run through March 28th, and there's a very good debate and feel on the floor. I'm very encouraged with what I see. One of the things that's a little bit different this year is that there was, in the rules change last year, we instituted a 20-bill limit. So there is a limit on the number of bills that an individual senator can introduce. And that's brand new. I mean, it had been done before in the legislature, from my understanding, but only recently are we experiencing that now. As a result of that, we've seen some attempt to work around that, and omnibus bills are being introduced by individual senators, meaning that within the same bill you may have 5 or 6 bills that are introduced, which makes it a challenge as to which committee to reference to, which committee has the jurisdiction over that particular bill, that single bill. I have instructed the chairs that we, from 2023, where we had many large Christmas tree bills, omnibus bills, to 2024, we backed that off. 2025, I've instructed the chairs that we want to return to pre-2023 behavior with our bills and moving to 5 or 6 bills in a committee package. Very difficult to track large number of bills for lobbyists, for those who are wanting to follow the legislature, if we don't do that. We are, as I mentioned earlier, responding to term limits. What we are doing more deliberately, more purposefully now in the legislature is there's a lot of orientation, a lot of training, a lot of mentoring that's going on in the legislature. More standardization of processes. A lot of individuality, a lot of flexibility provided to the chairs of the legislature, but we're trying to standardize. We implemented something new with what we call an annotated committee hearing, where these very large hearings where we fill the halls, now we have a process for how we manage those large hearings. The committee clerks now, rather than reporting to the chairs, are now reporting to the clerk, and that has helped with the processing of committee statements and the standardization of those processes. 61% of the members at the beginning of this year had experienced 2 sessions or less, and so there's there's a lot of, a very steep, a very steep learning curve for the new senators and for the 10 new chairs out of 15. So we're working very hard to get that built into our system, and the recruitment and retention of staff is also a very important issue to us. So this year, I'm often asked, what is the big issue? And I usually answer it. The top 3 issues are budget, budget, and budget. And so we're going to be spending a lot of time in committee, of course, Appropriations Committee, but the governor's proposed budget that he submitted to the legislature also included other bills in other committees, meaning that the revenue bills, where there are some suggested changes in pulling back some incentive programs. I think there's another bill in HHS, and so we have to, whereas in the past we really focused on that appropriations bill, we now have to get those revenue bills and other bills moved before we get the budget out on day 70, and so we have a bit of a coordination challenge this year in moving our budget. But the budget is the big issue. We will watch very carefully February 28th when the forecasting board meets. That'll be our first forecast this year, and then at the end of April we'll see our final forecast, which will be the number then that the Appropriations Committee and the legislature will use to build the budget. It's a bit of a change of a mindset for the legislature this year. We experienced a lot of revenue. with ARPA and a lot of the other money that flowed to the state. And some of the senators that are in the legislature have experienced only that. They haven't experienced a normal year where money's tight and we have to live within our means. And so this is a new experience for some of them. We did yesterday pass a legislative resolution, number 39, that was in honor of Coach Cook. And so we want an opportunity to speak to him directly and provide this resolution. And I think I spoke to Dr. Gold last night. We're going to try to coordinate that so Coach Cook can even come to the floor of the legislature and be honored by the legislature for many, many years of service. And we did something similar. I was not there at the time, but when Coach Osborne retired, we also invited him to come and presented the resolution to him as well. So we look forward to that. We look forward to that. In closing, I would just say one thing. We are together trying to build what I would call a state of opportunity here in Nebraska. Opportunity, thank you. Opportunity for those who grow up here in this state, that are here in high school, that are ready to build a life here in this state, that they see the opportunity to stay, to build that life, and to grow their career here in Nebraska. That is not a single individual or a single entity that has to do that. That is industry, all the industries in Nebraska. That certainly is all of education, including higher education, the University of Nebraska playing a very key role, the legislature. We really have to refocus on building those opportunities for the people that are growing up here in the state. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Regent Claire?
Well, thank you for your words. You've got obviously a tall order in front of you. And I kind of look at it, and I look at a lot of what the university does with respect to its benefits to the state, and you just set it out there perfectly. If we are going to grow Nebraska, the university has to be at the table, and it's got to be a robust university and a vibrant university, and one that attracts and retains the top faculty, top students, conducting outstanding research and all those different things. I also know you're in a terribly difficult budget circumstance, and I don't look at the contribution, the appropriation that's being made to the university necessarily as an appropriation as much as I do an investment. And so looking at it from how I look in my budget at my household, it's just because the economy's down or we've got expenses doesn't mean that I'm not going to continue to put money in my 401k, and doesn't mean I'm not going to continue to put money aside and saving for that rainy day and all those different things. And I just would encourage you to think about the benefits that the university, if we're going to grow our state, we have to have a robust university. And I would just ask you to please consider that in your deliberations. Please consider that in your discussions, because if the university continues to go through the cycle where it's $8 corn, and then all of a sudden, boom, it goes to $4, and now we're in a bunker mentality, and we're trying to dig out, and we dig out, and we get it back up. It's now 8, now we're ready to go again, and then it drops back to 4. We're here to help diversify our state, keeping ag obviously at the forefront, but also just growing our state's economy. And I would just encourage you to hold us accountable for some things, set some benchmarks for us, but don't cut us off at the knees.
I appreciate those comments, and I agree with those comments. I think the challenge that we have is strategic thinking, right? So when we talk about a state of opportunity, and we talk about keeping individuals here, attracting individuals to the state, it is not the university's plan or the legislature's plan or industry's plan or any of that. It has to be all of our collective plan. The challenge that we have is that how our legislative budget is set up, we're in two-year cycles. And so it drives us, unfortunately, to some very short-term thinking. And so when we talk about investments, those tend to be longer-term investments. So collectively, we all have to be at the table. If we're gonna drive the state of Nebraska forward, we all have to be at the table. But I very much resonate to your comments.
Anyone else? Surely a former speaker would have something to comment about. Regent?
No, because I remember doing that about 4 times, and I was just waiting for everybody to shut up so I could leave, but,
I have a question.
Yes, Regent?
We have a biennial budget model now. Have we ever considered not doing it that way? Especially as fast as change is coming?
That's a good question. We attempt to modify it a little bit because while we have a biennium budget, we do your 3 and 4 projections as well. Now, we don't obligate dollars in years 3 and 4, but we do those projections because if all you do is balance in the next 2 years, but you blow up 3 and 4, we have problems. So, yes, I don't think formally has it been considered to go off a biennium budget, but there are some things that we do to try to mitigate that.
Okay. Anyone else? President?
Well, thank you. I just want to thank you for being here this morning and most importantly for your leadership and your partnership with the university over many years. And just to reiterate that our approach to this, as will always be in the future as long as I'm sitting in the chair, is in total partnership and in total transparency of where we are on a day-to-day basis. I view my job as not in making decisions with the unicameral and with the governor's office, but in providing accurate, timely information for our elected bodies to make accurate decisions. And I'm assuring you and your colleagues that has been and will continue to be our approach to this in the future. And we look forward to working with you, understanding fully the challenges that are out there on an existential level, but also having a long-term view of what public higher education means to the future of the state of Nebraska. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. And I'd like to thank you as well. These are some pretty trying times, especially as Regent Claire touched on for agriculture. Especially the grain farmers. Cattle markets are doing pretty darn good if you have cattle, but the grain farmers right now, as someone who's involved in that, if you lock in pricing for this fall for your crop and you pay for your inputs right now, you're lucky if you hit a break-even point. And that doesn't allow for anything for machinery payments, land payments, and let alone for the farmer to pull something out for him and his family to make a living off of. So some pretty trying times. So we appreciate your outward looking approach where we all need to basically form a big circle facing outward and try to tackle the things that are outside trying to penetrate our circle and how we do business here in the state, including the university, as opposed to turning around and everybody looking inside the circle and taking shots at each other. So we appreciate your help and assistance and look forward to working with you.
Thank you again for the opportunity.
You bet.
Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce Major General Craig W. Strong, who was appointed as the Adjutant General for the Nebraska National Guard on July 7th, 2023. General Strong was born in York and grew up in Silver Creek, Nebraska. He began his military career in 1986 as an enlisted member of the United States Navy Reserve and then joined the Nebraska Army National Guard in 1993. He earned his JD degree from UNL's College of Law in the year 2000. In 2016, he was a distinguished graduate of the United States Army War College, earning his master's degree in strategic studies. He has deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom twice, as well as in support of hurricane recovery operations. In addition to many military awards, General Strong is a recipient of the Department of the Army's Douglas MacArthur Leadership Award. Please join me in welcoming to our Board of Regents meeting Major General Craig Strong, our Adjutant General. Craig, it's all yours.
Pleasure to be be here. I should start off by saying I usually have an aide de camp who does my slides, and so I'll do my best to run it. Speaker Arch left, and actually, first of all, thank you, Regents, President Gold, for being here. But Speaker Arch, I just wanted to extend a thanks to the legislature last year, where due to his leadership, the Nebraska and the governor's leadership, that the Nebraska National Guard was able to pass a bill that made National Guard pay exempt from state taxes. So we're very thankful for that. A couple points of order before I begin. Two things I always have to clarify. I am the governor's adjutant general, not the attorney general. So I get that often. And then secondly, I was in the Capitol a few weeks ago, and someone approached me and said, "Are you a World War II reenactor?" And I had to and so I had to indicate that I am an Army officer, but the uniforms have changed over the years, and it's kind of retro. We've gone back to our World War II uniforms, so about 2 years ago. So this is the actual uniform for the United States Army. I'll start off by just pointing out, as the Adjutant General for Nebraska, we are 3 SEALs, if you will. We have the Army National Guard, the Air National Guard, and also Nebraska Emergency Management. Our state is unique. There's about 12 other states that place the responsibilities for emergency management under the Adjutant General. There are like about 12 other states that will do that. And so underneath that umbrella, we are the Nebraska Military Department. It works very well in Nebraska. It feels we are a flat organization when it comes to managing disasters and also providing the resources that the National Guard can leverage. Today, I just want to provide an overview of the capabilities and the missions of the National Guard, and then also some of the partnership synergy that we have with the University of Nebraska. This is our leadership chart, and I think the most important point I can make about this chart is all 5 individuals are graduates of the University of Nebraska. So that is something we're all proud of, and also the fact that the National Guard, the 3 of us in uniform, it is the citizen soldier or the citizen airman. I think that brings a unique perspective and capability to our Department of Defense. Brian Metcalf, for example, is an engineer at Kiewit. Bob Hargens is a farmer near Malcolm, but yet they don their uniform and become members of the Nebraska National Guard, and they provide great insights and perspectives. Actually, a member of your Board of Regents is a member of the Nebraska National Guard as well, and one of our leading strategic thinkers. And so, if everyone know Rob Schaefer, thank you for your service as well. Okay, we're unique, the National Guard writ large. We are the only component and service that has a mission that is a dual mission, to be able to provide support to the state and support federally. All 54 states and territories, the territories of Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and Guam, as well as the District of Columbia and the 50 states, have an Adjutant General, have a National Guard, and they're uniquely positioned in order to provide support to a state in times of need. No other component of the United States Department of Defense has that role, and also the opportunities to support our country in times of need federally. The National Guard is the combat reserve of the United States Army and the combat reserve of the United States Air Force. But we also have our dual mission to support the homeland when called upon. This was designed in order to provide responsive and response to a state in times of need. And I would just give an example for last year. We had the horrible tornadoes during Arbor Day, or the Arbor Day tornadoes. The governor didn't need to call the Pentagon in order to leverage capabilities to provide what was needed for those devastated areas. The governor has express power to provide support by leveraging the National Guard in their own state. Real quickly on the capabilities, our Air National Guard is located near the Lincoln Airport. You probably have seen their facilities just if you've ever traveled to the Lincoln Airport. It traces its roots back to, in that location, to when it was a Lincoln Air Base during World War II. It was a bomber base, and now it has been occupied by our 155th Air Refueling Wing. Primary capability is, you'll see the photo with the tanker. We have a tanker, the RC-135, which provides air refueling, a capability that is world-class, unlike any across the globe, in order to enable air combat power to be able to sustain itself globally. The 170th Group is located off at Air Force Base, another partnership we have, fully integrated into the operations of the 55th Wing at Offutt Air Force Base. Also an opportunity for us to provide opportunities for those that are maybe coming out of the active duty Air Force and would like to maintain their service, and we are there to have an opportunity for them to join the Nebraska National Guard. Army National Guard engineering capabilities, CBRNE capabilities, combat sustainment, military police. I always claim, that we are Fort Nebraska. Our air base is a geographic point where the unit is conducting its operations and training. Our Army National Guard is spread, what I would say, from Chimney Rock to the Missouri River. And we are in the community. We are a community-based organization. Many of you come from homes or have towns or that have a National Guard armory or readiness center, if you will, in your community. This is the 67th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade. That is the overall arching brigade, which traces its history back to 1854, when it was the first volunteer infantry regiment. Governor Cummings in 1854 and the territorial legislature determined that there was a need for a militia both north and south of the Platte River, and 2 regiments were formed. And that is our history, and that's where we trace back to in Nebraska. The 67th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade is Nebraska's brigade. It's kind of a trivia question. What the 67th? Why the 67th? And I always tell people to look at the Nebraska flag, because our Nebraska became a state in 1867, and so that is the history and lineage of that brigade, which goes back to World War I, and then also had service in World War II, which I'll touch on later. Our other brigade is our combat brigade, combat heavy, if you will, cavalry squadron, infantry battalion, and then we have Army aviation capabilities. We're very robust in aviation capabilities, which are critical, especially when we talk about homeland missions, wildland fire capabilities. So, and these units are located across the state as well. We also have a regional training institute at Camp Ashland, which is just outside of the community of Ashland on the Platte River, and an amazing facility that actually trains not just National Guard soldiers, it also trains active duty soldiers as well. Fort Riley often sends many of its soldiers to Camp Ashland to receive essentially sergeants, NCO, non-commissioned officer training. When we talk about the primary missions of the National Guard, you'll hear warfight, homeland, partnerships. And that is what's unique about the National Guard, especially when we talk about the homeland. We have an immediate requirement and response capability for the homeland. These are 3 of our capabilities that we provide in an operational sense for Nebraska. Our civil support team, an offshoot of a need or requirement that was post 9/11, weapons of mass destruction, threats, and the ability for a team to rapidly respond and assess a situation when it comes to chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear events. They make every Nebraska football game as well, but you don't know it. They are in civilian attire, and they are assessing any scene to ensure that there is no threat to any environment. College World Series, they'll be at the Super Bowl. That is an important capability for Nebraska. Every state, there's 54 of these CSTs assigned to each state. SURF B has that ability. SURF P, we love acronyms, and this one is an acronym within an acronym. CBRNE, Enhanced Response Force Package, which provides search and rescue, extraction, CBRNE, decontamination, and also medical. We also have a counter-drug unit that supports local law enforcement, state patrol, FBI task forces, approximately 10 to 20 soldiers and airmen that embed to provide support to in the counter-drug fight. Our community partnership I launched last year. This is something I proposed to the governor when he selected me as his adjutant general. The fact that we are a community-based organization, similar to what you see your high schools and local schools are going through transformation, having to consolidate. Many of our armories have consolidated, and we are not in the community quite to the extent that we used to be. So I felt it was important for us to, I called it the Monster Blitz, a little ode to his playing as being a Nebraska football player, and because he also played monster back, by the way. So it was so the Monster Blitz was where this came from, and it developed into the community partnership program. We hit 3 communities last year. You'll see me in that photo in Grand Island. We were also in Wahoo and Beatrice. We have a signing ceremony with the local leadership. That's Mayor Steele from Grand Island. We are ensuring that they know that we are a partner that's a trusted partner in those communities. Turning to the one of what I would call our key or primary partnerships when we talk about the partnership aspect of what the Nebraska National Guard has. We have partnerships and initiatives spanning all campuses, and I'll touch on that. UNMC, the Med Center, this is something that we are now, as a National Guard, this is a capability. The Center for Sustainment Trauma and Readiness Skills is a UNMC program of excellence, and now the National Guard, the Nebraska National Guard, is part of that. We've put some skin in the game with 2 full-time members that will serve as instructors at UNMC. It is a world-class capability and that is provided for our nation. And this is, as I mentioned earlier, a center of excellence focused on deterring and ensuring that we have the response capabilities when it comes to biocontained threats. Future collaboration, we're moving toward, we'll place a staging area for a negative pressure containment light. We've scoped out where we can provide that capability that could be put onto an aircraft if needed, and then providing the negative pressure container light to a location in need of that capability. And I should probably let Dr. Cradaville, he can provide you all the actual details of what capabilities that brings to bear, but we're working on providing that staging area. And then the high consequence infectious disease response. This is it's future collaboration, but ongoing on where this capability can reside in Nebraska in collaboration between the medical center, the capabilities I listed earlier with our Suburni capabilities, our CST, and then also we have international partners. The Czech Republic is our European designated training partner, and we have engagements with the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic is NATO's premier biological defense country when it comes to NATO. That's the capability that they bring to the table. You'll see to the left, on the photo on the left, you'll see the flag of the Czech Republic on that soldier's shoulder. Long-term goal, and this is what we're aiming for, is we have I think we can expand the capacity and capability of the Nebraska Air National Guard, and our vision is to have an area medical squadron embedded at the University of Med Center. It won't just be a standard Air Force area medical squadron. It will be unique because it will have a capability unlike no other in the ability to provide that biocontained capability that DoD requires, and they are lacking the capacity and capability to do that. UNMC is uniquely positioned to be a center of excellence in DoD when it comes to this capability. And so that's the eyes on the prize, is to have Air Force look at us and see us as a perfect partner for an area medical squadron at UNMC. Turning to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, first of all, we are very honored when it comes to our Veterans Day celebration. One game a year, if you've been to this, most of you have been to a lot of the games, and that the game closest to Veterans Day, there's a highlight, the game day experience that is brought forth, and so that is just an honor to be part of in that sense. We have discussions currently with the Journalism College. We have a public affairs unit that there's some synergy there. We're looking at even students who are interested in perhaps being a war correspondent or going into that line of profession, and we can offer those opportunities in the Nebraska National Guard, both nationally and internationally with our partners. College of Art and Science and the History Department, we have a history unit and a history detachment. We've done some integration in there. We've had internships with our history debt and the museum. At UNL, last year hosted at the College of Engineering, Cyber Tatanka, one of the largest cyber defense exercises in DoD when it comes to not just defending the Department of Defense's networks, but the non-DoD networks as well. And that's what's very unique about it, is because it's not just DoD cyber defense, it is critical infrastructure as well. And these are the partners that have come together for that across the state of Nebraska, 4 countries as well. And then UNO, we're exploring the future partnerships with UNO. We met last week discussing opportunities with the Deterrence Lab, the Wargaming course, and actually our 43rd Army Band is located right outside of UNO, and I think there's some opportunities there as well. ROTC, we have ROTC assistant professors of military science at our campuses in Lincoln and Kearney, and then the ability to attend the University of Nebraska as a member of the Nebraska National Guard. Personally, I had 50% of my tuition paid for Nebraska due to the GI Bill. At this point, it's now 100% of your tuition can be covered by joining the Nebraska National Guard. I'll just close by saying strength and honor always. I reviewed, what is our strength? Our strength is our ability to support our country during a war fight, during the homeland emergency, and then also through our partnerships. The honor, I will just close with saying that this is the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Europe. And that unit that I talked about earlier, that 67th Brigade, I had the honor of being invited last year to the city of St. Lo, France, which was liberated by the 134th Infantry Regiment, which was made up of 3,500 Nebraska soldiers. And to this day, when you attend those ceremonies, my French, even though I did take French at Nebraska, I'm not proficient, but when the speeches were given by the mayor and the provincial leadership, the words I could recall and pick out were "Merci beaucoup, Garde Nationale, Nebraska." So the city of St. Lo was liberated by the Nebraska National Guard, and there was the 134th Infantry. 57 Nebraskans were lost in that liberation over 4 days, and the French have not forgotten, and they do bring us back to remind us of the debt they owe to preserve that freedom. So, merci beaucoup, Garde Nationale, Nebraska. So with that, thank you for this opportunity. Strength and honor.
Great. General, if you don't mind, there might be a few questions.
Sorry, no question. No, I'm just
I know in the past I had received a few questions, I think last from Regent Whites, that said it'd be nice if we could share this with the board, what's going on. So Regent Whites, do you have any questions?
I'm just fascinated, especially because there are so many that we don't recognize as people who are serving because they're not wearing uniforms. And it's wonderful. I wish there was some way we would be able to identify and thank them. Little pin or something.
Oh, yes. We can take that down as work on. So.
It's just, it's a service that people don't know about and appreciate. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, that is what I think is very unique about service in the National Guard, that it is the citizen soldiers, citizen airmen, and those perspectives. I would submit that if a Nebraskan sees someone in uniform outside of Bellevue, most likely, it's going to be a member of the Nebraska National Guard. That will be what their perception of Department of Defense. That was by design, that it ensures that our country realizes that we have soldiers and airmen available and are there. So,
any questions? Any other questions?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to the kudos section of today's meeting. At each Board of Regents meeting, we also take time to recognize those persons who all too often don't receive the recognition that they deserve. The Board of Regents believes that it is vitally important that we acknowledge your commitment as well as your contributions to the university. To have been nominated by either a supervisor or a fellow worker is an honor in and of itself. As the kudos recipients are announced, please come to the podium and join the Regent making the presentation. Following each presentation, we will take pictures that will appear on our website. The President, the Chancellor, and the recipient's family and supporters will be part of the photo. The first kudos recipient is Alex Stratman from the University of Nebraska at Kearney, and the award will be presented by Regent Schroeder.
On behalf of the Board of Regents, I am honored to present the Kudos Award to Alex Stratman, Chief Compliance Officer at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. Alex's journey began at UNK as a student, graduating in 2000. Even then, he showcased his leadership potential serving as student body vice president from 1998 to 1999. After completing law school, Alex worked for Congressman Adrian Smith before returning to UNK in 2022 as our Chief Compliance Officer. Alex oversees compliance with Title IX, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and manages our conflict of interest system. Since joining UNK, Alex has built a strong, trusting relationships across campus. He collaborates closely with departments such as Human Resources, Police and Parking Services, Student Affairs, and the Deans and Directors. He prioritizes effective education and outreach and ensures fairness in every aspect of his work. Alex embraces the servant leadership model, offering expert guidance to individuals throughout campus. Leadership and community engagement are Alex's core values. He participates in the Leadership Nebraska program, has served on the Kearney Public Schools Board, and is a member of Kearney City Council, and holds the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. Supervisor notes, Alex is a valuable resource for people across campus. I hear regularly from individuals who turn to him for guidance. Alex is proactive in helping the campus avoid challenges. He does this through outreach and building strong relationships before issues arise. With Alex today is his wife, Dr. Kim Andresen, and his supervisor, Dr. John Falconer, Senior Advisor to the Chancellor. Please join me in congratulating Alex for his dedication and outstanding contributions to our campus and community.
Congratulations, Alex. Regent Herbin will present the Kudos Award to Sheila Stewart from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, who is joining us via Zoom.
The Board of Regents is pleased to present a Kudos Award to Sheila Stewart, Senior Financial Accountant in the Accounting Department at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Sheila is our campus expert for our enterprise resource planning systems integrations with the state accounting system, accounts receivable, and reporting and monitoring foundation funds. Even more important than her function is her extraordinary manner of professionalism, collegiality, and commitment to a positive work environment while working to reduce misunderstandings and enhance overall workflow. Her leadership qualities are evident in her mentorship of team members. Sheila is very thorough, thoughtful, and a patient teacher who continues to drive others to success. Through various local and system reorganizations, she's become a campus-wide go-to resource for straightforward solutions and always demonstrates a commitment to unwavering customer service. Her openness to challenge and her thoughtful curiosity further elevate the department's success. She is a model colleague, supervisor, and servant leader who has earned the trust of her colleagues. Sheila's husband, Donnie Stewart, is joining us via the live stream, and joining us today in person are Lacey Roy, Associate Vice Chancellor, and Controller Mike Zeleny, Vice Chancellor for Business and Finance. Please join me in thanking Sheila Stewart for her dedication.
Congratulations, Sheila. Regent Whites will present the Kudos Award to Debbie Vidlock from the University of Nebraska Medical Center.
It's my honor. On behalf of the Board of Regents, I'm pleased to present a Kudos Award to Debbie Vidlock, a research project coordinator in the Clinical Trials Office at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Debbie has been instrumental in helping to elevate and support clinical trials work being done at UNMC and Nebraska Medicine, and has created new standard operating procedures that streamline processes and improve outdated ones. Debbie has worked at UNMC for 25 years. In her role, she also trains new project coordinators and onboards physicians who work with the Clinical Trials Office to make progress against diseases by testing the safety and efficacy of potential new medicines. She is a great resource. One nominator said, "If I need advice or guidance, I go right to Debbie. She listens without judgment and provides fantastic solutions." Debbie is also passionate about recycling. Yes. She voluntarily serves as a Live Green ambassador to promote sustainability initiatives at the Med Center. She is conscientious about her work environment. One of her nominators said, encouraging office colleagues to recycle and practice energy curtailment. One nominator, she is the first one to close the blinds and turn off the lights. She is the first one to close those blinds, and she ensures that we are all doing our part to make this world a better place. Beyond work, Debbie has a passion for animals. Amazing. Well, and she works for a cat rescue, where she can be found caring for several kittens at any given time. We won't say. Today, she is joined by her spouse, Paul Vidlock. And I want to add a personal note here. I had a sister with a very severe type juvenile diabetes, and she received many opportunities through clinical trials to extend her life. And so it's a very personal thank you from me for the work that you do. Anyway, today she is joined by her spouse, Paul Vidlock. Join me in thanking Debbie for her commitment to supporting the important work that is clinical trials, I personally know, and for helping make the UNMC Clinical Trials Office processes more efficient.
Congratulations, Debbie. Regent Adididam will present the Kudos Award to Sophia Potter from the University of Nebraska at Omaha.
The Board of Regents is pleased to present a Kudos Award to Sophia Potter, Project Manager for the Office of Research and Creative Activity at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Her supervisor, Rika McLaren, Assistant Director of Finance and Administration in the UNO Office of Research and Creative Activity, says that Sophia exemplifies the maverick spirit with her can-do attitude and dedication to overcoming challenges. Her willingness to take on multiple demanding assignments with enthusiasm and skill reflect her passion for elevating UNO's research and creative activity initiatives. Sophia plays a vital role in advancing UNO's mission of discovery by fostering research and creative endeavors. Her supervisor states that when asked to facilitate a National Science Foundation workshop on short notice, Sophia managed all aspects of the event, reserving space, organizing catering, creating promotional materials, and conducting outreach, quickly and with precision. She seamlessly manages such tasks, showcasing her high-quality work. Sophia's inclusive approach to planning and her focus on creating a welcoming environment for all participants further highlight her commitment to advancing innovation and collaboration at UNO. She effectively brings people together and creates opportunities for meaningful interactions, advancing UNO's goal for connection and collaboration, says McLaren. Joining Sophia today are her mother, Kathleen Johnson, who is a retired UNL library faculty, and Dr. Sarah Myers, who is attending in place of her supervisor, Rika McLaren. Please join me in thanking Sophia for her dedication to the University of Nebraska at Omaha.
Congratulations, Sophia. At the August 8, 2024 Board of Regents meeting, the board approved the program statement for the Project Health. Project Health, Building a Healthier Nebraska, is phase one of Project Next and will build on decades of successful and groundbreaking healthcare and professional education at the University of Nebraska Medical Center and its clinical partner, Nebraska Medicine. By providing much-needed campus enhancement to UNMC's research, education, clinical, and community service missions, Project Health will result in programs and facilities that truly embody healthcare in the future. Critically, this is a transformational project which will position the medical center to address increasingly urgent healthcare workforce needs across the state of Nebraska. For a project of this size and scale, there are a number of sources including philanthropic community, the state, the City of Omaha, Nebraska Medicine, and the university. I have asked Regent Stark to offer a resolution on behalf of the board to document the university's commitment to this transformational project. Regent Stark.
I'm honored to read this resolution, which summarizes $1.275 billion of contributions for this biggest project in the history of the state. Whereas the University of Nebraska Board of Regents approved in August of 2024 the program statement for Project Health, a new $2.19 billion healthcare facility at the University of Nebraska Medical Center that will serve as a clinical training center to train and educate next generation of healthcare providers, conduct research, and offer clinical trials. And whereas the Nebraska Medicine Board has approved a resolution demonstrating its support of Project Health by making a financial commitment of $575 million. And whereas the Nebraska philanthropic community has recognized the significant need for the construction of Project Health and values the overwhelming impact this facility will have on the state's generations to come, has committed over $450 million. And whereas the Board of Regents desires to express its support by making a substantial financial commitment to Project Health. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Nebraska commit $250 million comprised of $150 million from the University of Nebraska system, another $100 million from UNMC, to the construction project Health Phase 1, building the healthiest Nebraska of Project Health. Project Next. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Stark. If there's no objection, I suggest that this resolution be adopted by acclamation.
Second.
Hearing no objections, it is so adopted. Thank you. While our kudos guests are welcome to stay for the balance of our meeting, we understand you may have other plans for the day. And if that's the case, we'll take a moment now to allow you to exit along with your families. I'll now turn over today's program to President Gold to make a few remarks.
Thank you, Regent Schaefer, and good morning, Regents, colleagues, and distinguished guests. It is always a pleasure to be with you as we discuss the future of the University of Nebraska and our critical role in shaping a stronger Nebraska. I would like to thank our guests this morning, Senator Arch, the Speaker, for being with us, who has spent more than 3 decades in healthcare administration, serving as the CEO of Boys Town Hospitals and Clinics. His leadership and expertise have been invaluable, not only in healthcare, but of course in his leadership and the unicameral, his partnership and his friendship. I would also like to personally thank Brigadier General Craig Strong for being with us today. As you heard, General Strong is the 34th Adjutant General of the Nebraska Military Department, oversees the Army National Guard, the Air National Guard, and the Nebraska Emergency Management Agency. A very distinguished career, a great partner of the university, and a great personal friend. The University of Nebraska is deeply committed to serving our state. Through education, research, and engagement, we contribute to the economic vitality, the well-being, and the success of Nebraska. And I'm grateful to the faculty and the staff who work so hard to advance our institution and our state, as well as to the students and to their families who trust us every day with their futures. I'm proud that during my time in the role as the president of your university, that our focus has only sharpened. We remain steadfast in our mission to serve the people of Nebraska, and we're working hard, and a bit more than that, to be the most effective and responsible way possible. As you know, Governor Pillen recently released his proposed budget, which includes significant support for Project Health, the public-private initiative aimed at expanding workforce and critically needed professional health programs based on the UNMC campus and across our university system. We're grateful for this support, which will help address the critical healthcare workforce shortages that unquestionably result every day, including today, in serious access and economic hardships in our state. However, the proposed budget also includes a 2.07% reduction in our base state-aided budget, along with elimination of long-standing biomedical research support and unfunded tuition remissions. This results in what is estimated to be a $31.5 million or 4.55% annual negative budget impact across the university system. Additionally, recent federal actions have brought new uncertainties to our research and federally supported programs for our students, our faculty, and our staff. All of these proposed budget and policy changes in the context of ongoing inflationary trends, our very limited reserve funds, and our future commitments, individually and together, present significant multidimensional challenges for your university campuses, colleges, institutes, centers, and so much more. Indeed, these are challenging times, but we are prepared to face them with humility, civility, and data, as well as the steadfast belief in the power of our 155-year legacy land-grant university system. Above all, we strive to be a good partner as we work towards solutions that support the long-term success of Nebraska. Throughout this hard work, we will be guided by our new strategic plan and a new strategic planning structure. At our last board meeting, I introduced the 5 pillars that will guide that plan. These pillars are extraordinary teaching and learning, or creating innovative, inclusive, and impactful educational experiences. Extraordinary research and creative activity, driving discovery and innovation to address critical challenges. Extraordinary partnerships and engagement, strengthening collaborations that benefit both rural and urban communities. Fourth, the extraordinary culture and environment that builds a dynamic and supportive university community. And fifth, extraordinary stewardship and effectiveness, ensuring responsible and sustainable use of all of our resources. Since our last meeting, we have worked diligently to build upon these pillars, working with leadership from all of our campuses and many of our communities that we serve. We've identified 16 potential strategies that support these pillars. These proposed strategies include enhancing curriculum innovation, establishing a unified research identity, and reliance upon data-driven decision-making to maximize impact. In the coming weeks, we will engage with all of our faculty, staff, students, with our community leaders, alumni, donors, and stakeholders to ensure that our strategic direction broadly aligns with the needs of the future of Nebraska. This university belongs to the people of our state, and it is our responsibility and my responsibility to help reimagine NU as a truly extraordinary institution that drives Nebraska forward. As an important part of this future, I am pleased to report that we remain in very close contact with the Higher Learning Commission, the body that accredits all of our campuses, and will embark upon the next step of combined accreditation for UNL and UNMC very shortly. This step will facilitate the combined reporting of faculty, learner, and program outcomes, and is highly consistent with our peer institutions, the very top tier institutions of our nation. Another one of the ways the university drives our future is reflecting on our growing economic impact. At our last meeting, Dr. Paul Umbach from the consulting firm Tripp Umbach shared preliminary findings of the University of Nebraska Economic Impact Report. The data is clear. The University of Nebraska academic systems contribute $6.4 billion with a B dollars annually to the Nebraska economy and return $10 for every dollar invested by the state. This represents just over 10% growth since this last study was completed 3 years ago. On February 11th, Dr. Umbach will join us once more here in Lincoln for a news conference where he will share the full analysis in the context of national trends and distribute the formal report. And I will share a small spoiler, which is that the incredible, continuous economic impact of the University of Nebraska is not consistent with the national trends for public universities such as ours. Even though the challenges of recent years, when the economic impact of many other universities and large systems has remained flat or fallen, the impact of the University of Nebraska from an economic development perspective has continued to soar. This is a testament to the work of everybody in this room, the leadership of our board, but most importantly, our faculty, our staff, and so many others. Part of the reason for this impact is that we are focused on preparing a talented workforce ready to face the challenges and to embrace the opportunities they encounter throughout their careers. Although the University of Nebraska system, within this you can find numerous examples of programs that equip students to do exactly that, including one new program that's on the agenda today, the UNMC College of Dentistry and the UNO College of Business Administration, that will offer a dual DDS MBA degree. Both degrees currently exist, and offering a dual degree program will allow dental students to complete the MBA degree in fewer credit hours and equip future dentistry professionals with the business and leadership skills required in the modern healthcare environment. Programs like this help future dentists develop skills that they will need to build and maintain thriving practices in Nebraska and beyond. There are so many other examples of good work taking place across our university system, but for the sake of time, I will share just one more. Just this last January, I was incredibly honored to join UNO's own combined choir, led by our very own Professor Peter Eklund. This visit was to perform at the United States presidential inauguration in the rotunda of the United States Capitol. This was a wonderful opportunity to showcase some of our incredibly talented students on the national stage, and I might add, supported through the generosity of private philanthropy. And for each of our regents, there is a gift commemorating that day on the table before you. But for our students, this was an incredible opportunity for them to experience our nation's capital in a way that few Americans have ever or will ever have the opportunity to do. And I can tell you that they sounded absolutely beautiful. But don't take my word for it. At the inauguration, in the rotunda of our nation's capital, the students performed One Voice. And I can't think of a more appropriate soundtrack to the work that we're doing here today as we work towards a collaborative and unified university system and for the advancement and continued success of our current and future students and state. And now, to share their amazing talents of our students and faculty, it is my pleasure to invite Professor Eklund and our students to share this historic moment with us today. Welcome.
Thank you.
One voice. This is the sound as to sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. Voices too. This is the sound of voices three, singing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of voices three. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
One people, one voice, a song for every one of us. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. One people, one voice. A song for every one of us. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. One people, one voice. A song for every one of us. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of all of us, singing with love and the will to trust. Leave the rest behind, it'll turn to dust. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is one voice.
Peter. Well, thank you. I want to also just note that without the assistance of our senior senator, Deb Fisher, none of this would have been possible. It was her invitation, and she's the one that facilitated when all of the inauguration events were transitioned from being outdoors to indoors to give the choir the opportunity to perform inside of the rotunda of the United States Capitol. Was truly a life-changing moment for these young men and women, and by the way, for me as well. So thank you. And thanks to Chancellor Bennett for the generosity of the red scarves. I think they made a big hit on national media, and I hope that our regents enjoy wearing them and that you'll use this as an opportunity to remember that our job is, of course, to balance the budget, build strategic plans, and serve the people of Nebraska, but we do a few other things as well. Thank you. Turn it back to you, Regent
All right,
Schaefer.
that was quite simply extraordinary and outstanding, and it, quite frankly, takes me back to when I was in basic training, and somebody would accomplish something like that, and Drill Sergeant Whitaker would use naughty words in a good way. But just extraordinary. Wow, what a lot to be proud of there. So with that, thank you, President Gold. We'll now move on to the public comment portion of today's meeting. The standing rules of the Board provide that any person or persons may appear and address the Board of Regents on items that are not on the agenda if an individual provides the corporation secretary with at least 24 hours notice. We were not contacted by any individuals wishing to speak on a topic that is not on today's agenda. Standing rules further provide that anyone desiring to speak concerning any item on the agenda for this meeting, regardless of notice, may do so. Is there anyone today who would like to address the board on a topic that is part of today's agenda? If so, please come forward, identify yourself, and complete the sign-in sheet before you leave. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Do we have anyone today? Having no one that wishes to speak, we'll go ahead and declare the public comment session closed. It is now time to consider the consent agenda. The consent agenda, as indicated by its name, is moved and voted on as a group of action items as opposed to the administrative agenda, where items are considered individually and discussed individually. With that said, unless one of my colleagues on the board wishes to consider any of the items on the administrative agenda separately, I would invite a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder?
Yes.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor? Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Claire? And Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you. I'd now like to ask President Gold to walk us through the items on today's administrative agenda.
Thank you, Regent Schaefer. The first item, which is the approval of the award of honorary degrees and awards by the university system, item number 11A1, will be considered in closed session and then voted on thereafter. Item 11A2 seeks your approval to eliminate the Master of Science degree in architecture with and without the specialization in interior design from the College of Architecture here at UNL. While the architecture program is truly thriving with undergraduate enrollment on the rise, enrollment in the Master of Science in Architecture has drastically decreased with students not seeking this graduate degree. The new admissions in Master of Science degree in Architecture was discontinued in 2023, and currently there are no students in the program. This was reviewed by Academic Affairs, and I present it to you for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve item 11A2?
So moved.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Regent Schroeder?
Yes.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Claire? Regent Kenny? Regent O'Connor?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11A3 seeks your approval to eliminate the Nebraska Book Arts Center at UNO. The Nebraska Book Arts Center was established to promote the art of fine book production. A recent review recommended discontinuing the center as other entities within the UNO system provide the same services, and the faculty that were involved in the center have all retired. This, too, was reviewed at Academic Affairs Committee and is presented to you for your consideration today.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve item 11A3?
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Claire? Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor?
Yes.
Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11B1 seeks your approval to approve and authorize an agreement with Aramark for concessions at UNL athletic facilities. After an RFP process, Aramark Sports and Entertainment stood out as the best option for UNL athletic needs. They provide the best enhancement of the fan experience, implementation of technology, capital dollars, and additional revenue. This agreement, pending your approval, would be a 10-year term plus an optional 5-year extension. Initially, there will also be a $10 million capital infusion by Aramark, along with projected annual commissions to UNO over $5.5 million. This item was reviewed at the Business and Finance Committee, and I present it to you for your consideration today.
Is there a motion to approve item 11B1? Second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Regent Claire?
Yeah, I'm going to say a few words. And just to let my colleagues know, I did speak with Troy and Jeff about this matter. And consistent with my prior 16-plus years of votes, I do what I believe is right and best for the University of Nebraska. I struggled with this because I am big in our role being one of governance, and whether delving into this issue got into more of a managerial thing. But I do believe this is something that from a governance standpoint, we're talking, I think it does get into some governance. I'll begin by saying that Troy is in a very tough position here. On the one hand, he needs to raise monies, and the athletic department, with the added expense that they've got relative to the some of the NCAA rulings and court rulings, he does need to raise monies. On the other hand, I think it's important for him to continue to follow Nebraska tradition and honor as to what got us to where we are today with respect to an athletic department that is second to none, no debt, competitive at every team and nationally, and so those are some things that I'm sure he has to weigh. I've not spoken to my colleagues necessarily in depth about this, but I want to let you all know that my office has done work for Valentino's, and so I am going to abstain from voting on this just out of an abundance of caution. That being said, I'm a lawyer, and so I will always have a few remarks to make. First, I want to thank Valentino's, the Valentino's family. It sounds like this bid is going to pass. I want to thank the Valentinos and Premier Catering family for 30 years of service to our athletic department. Thank you for your commitment to the local Rotaries, to local chambers of commerce, to teammates, and many other charitable organizations throughout our community. Thank you for your support of our schools. Thank you for the employees that you employed. These folks coached our kids. They worked with within their communities with the PTAs and other things, and supported our churches and the communities in general. I want to recognize Tony Massinio, who was inducted into the Nebraska Business Hall of Fame. Summary, I just want to thank the Valentinos, Massinio family for all that they have done for Lincoln, Nebraska, and Nebraska athletics. My hope is that Aramark can contribute to Lincoln and Nebraska and to the University of Nebraska like Valentino's did. And with their employees, I hope they're involved with the local chambers of commerce. I hope they're involved in local Rotaries. I hope that they buy their food and their supplies from our local vendors. I hope that they offer our students in hospitality management and others colleges throughout our campus. I hope they offer them internships. I hope that once those students graduate, that they offer them jobs. We need to keep our local communities vibrant. We need to keep our state vibrant, and we need to continue also to help athletics. So again, I'm going to abstain from voting on this, but I felt it was important for my colleagues and for those involved here in the meeting to understand where I'm coming from. I have always held the community and the university first and trying to do what I believe is right and best. And so those are my remarks.
Thank you, Regent Claire. Regent Wilmot, you have some comments?
I had just a clarifying question. And that is for the $10 million upfront investment, exactly what are our obligations and responsibilities?
Can Athletic Director Dannon come to the podium?
That money will be used for infrastructure improvements inside the stadium. One, just to modernize our concession stands as they are. The model that we have, walk up and walk away, is kind of not in vogue. We need to add coolers throughout the stadium to facilitate alcohol sales, which we do not have. So it's really, excuse me, equipment that will allow the concessions facilities to get up to speed. The 7.5 up front and the 2.5 later contemplates potential stadium improvements and needing to do things a little bit further down the line. Whatever work is done now would not be compromised if there was a stadium project ahead.
Okay, that was another question
Yeah.
I had. It's like, we're going to do all these things, and then what happens? And the other, with the other $5 million that's coming in all the time, do we have obligations on how that is supposed to be spent?
No, that's just general revenue to the department, like any other source of revenue that will fulfill our expenses.
I wanted to clarify that, so.
I'm recalling all of our discussion prior to the vote to include alcohol now in our sales. And at that time, there were a number of things that were raised around guidelines, around when we stop selling during a game or whatever, and what we sold and how we sold it. And I'm just wanting to be reassured that the Board of Regents retains the power, the president, to say, if we say stop selling at the end of the second half or the third quarter in a football game, that will be, Aramac will honor those.
Oh, sorry, absolutely.
Okay. I couldn't see it exactly in the contract.
Two things have happened since that vote. One, Homeland Security has done a comprehensive review of all of our operations, just from a safety and security standpoint. They've given us a report. It's a preliminary report. I've seen it. The plan is for the concessionaire, Aramark, to own the liquor license. And at that point, we have a group internal, and should you approve this, we'll add Aramark to that, to develop all of those plans that we will all live by, including the one that you're speaking of.
Thank you.
At the October meeting in Kearney, there was an individual that I had contact with, and later too, who had quite a few safety recommendations based on, current or practices in other areas. And I guess I'm very interested in what the planning has been and exactly, I know you said Homeland Security is involved, but what is the plan exactly? I know you probably can't tell me today, but I'm interested in hearing that.
I don't have it in my hands because it hasn't been developed.
Yeah. Well, when you do, I want to know.
Homeland Security's report was important. But Aramark, coincidentally or not coincidentally, has led the transitions from no alcohol sales to alcohol sales at 6 different institutions, including the University of Iowa, whose report we used to give us some of the data about how behaviors have been impacted by it. So they've actually been a part of the transition processes. So I believe their expertise, and part of the reason why we haven't really gone full bore on that yet, one, time didn't necessarily necessitate it, but two, until they were onboarded, we need them in the room to help guide us too with what they've experienced.
Anyone else?
Well, I have an additional comment,
Okay.
and it doesn't need Troy here. This
No,
is
not so fast.
I know Tim had a statement to make, and I will be voting against basically on the principle. I didn't agree with the alcohol in the first place, and I have worked, though, well, not for Aramark, but in the correctional system, so I'm very familiar with Aramark. In fact, through a contractual, we actually train their employees in the correctional setting, but I don't feel I have a conflict of interest because I was never, quote, employed with them.
Okay.
But I will vote no based on the principle.
Okay. I guess I have a question, and I think I have a clear understanding of it, but approving this contract with Aramark does not limit or prohibit Aramark from entering into an agreement with Valentino's to sell their pizza down the road. Is that
Correct.
Okay, so it's not mutually exclusive. That opportunity will still present itself.
University of Nebraska today, athletic department is the concessionaire. Aramark will become the concessionaire. Today, the University of Nebraska Athletic Department has contracts with Val's, Runza, Wimmers for their products to be served. Those contracts will now be held by Aramark as the concessionaire. One of the attachments to your information on this shows those existing contracts that will carry over. In Val's case, the contract was expiring this year, so that will be up to Val's or Godfather's or whatever pizza provider that Aramark wants to provide.
Okay, but Valentino's will have the opportunity to enter into negotiations and
Absolutely.
and fill that contract if the two parties can
That's right.
can reach terms. Okay, great. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nope.
Anyone else? Okay, with that, let's please call the roll.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder?
Yes.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
No.
Regent Kenny? Regent O'Connor? Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Clare? Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11B2 seeks your approval to amend, the University of Nebraska Joint Operating Agreement with the Lincoln Ballpark, better known as NEBCO. This amendment formalizes the current fee agreement between UNL and NEBCO of $7,500 a month for accounting services performed by NEBCO on behalf of UNL, and to permit NEBCO and its patrons to utilize Wi-Fi services and TrackMan technology as additional consideration for a reduced monthly accounting fee. The amendment further clarifies UNL's priority use of the stadium through June 1st, with UNL receiving additional priority dates as needed if the NCAA schedule extends beyond the June 1st date. This item has been reviewed by the Business and Finance Committee, and I present it to you today for your consideration.
Is there a motion to approve agenda item 11B2?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion or comments? Having none, please call the roll.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder?
Yes.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Clare? Regent Kenny? Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor?
Yes.
Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11B3 seeks your approval today to add an addendum to the Silverhawk Aviation Incorporated agreement of 1 year of the aircraft's fractional share program with UNL Athletics. Approval is recommended to extend the term of this agreement through December 31st, 2025. This addendum also will change the monthly management fee to an hourly fee. This 1 year addendum is valued at approximately $1 million. This item was also reviewed at the Business and Finance Committee, and I present it to you today for your consideration.
Is there a motion to approve agenda item 11B3?
Yes.
Second? Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Regent Schroeder?
Yes.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Clare? Regent Kenny? Regent O'Connor? Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11B4 seeks your approval today to add enabling work to the Phase 1 infrastructure of multiple Memorial Stadium improvements project at UNL. Regents Policy 6.3.6 stipulates that the project approval phase of the university's capital planning and development process begins with review of intermediate design. In October 2023, the Board of Regents granted a waiver to permit ADA compliance and infrastructure work to commence immediately following the 2023 football season. As work continues to move from the program statement phase to the project approval phase, additional enabling work has been identified to help allow the project to proceed efficiently and effectively for your subsequent consideration. This item requests approval to expand the current waiver permitting ADA compliance and infrastructure to include utility infrastructure, site work, relocating occupants, technology upgrades, and security enhancements. This item was presented to the Business and Finance Committee, and it now present to you for your consideration.
Is there a motion to approve agenda item 11B4? We have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? We do have the athletic director here if anybody would like to ask him a question again or two. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Regent Adidam,
Yes.
Regent Herbin,
Yes.
Regent Schroeder,
Yes.
Regent Claire, Regent Kenny, Regent O'Connor,
Yes.
Regent Schaefer,
Yes.
Regent Shear,
Yes.
Regent Stark,
Yes.
Regent Whites,
Yes.
Regent Wilmot.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11B5 seeks your approval on UNMC's campus utility and public safety infrastructure project. Per Board of Regents Policy 6.2.6.2C, renewal work on an estimated project cost of $2 million or greater will be submitted to the Board of Regents for approval. Pedestrian crosswalk at 42nd Street is the most heavily trafficked pedestrian crossing for students and faculty on the UNMC campus, having crossed that crosswalk hundreds, if not thousands of times in my previous job. UNMC has been notified by the Metropolitan Utilities District of their intention to repair the water main line that runs underneath 42nd Street on the UNMC campus, which, by the way, has ruptured on several occasions. While 42nd Street will be closed by MUD, UNMC proposes to undertake the safety project to minimize the time this main route will be closed to traffic. The project will remove the center island to create a shorter crossing distance and eliminate the line of sight issues caused by drop-offs in this location. It will install a raised traffic table to increase visibility and to slow traffic, and will also narrow the traffic lanes, which has been shown to naturally slow traffic speeds in this area, as we've had a number of near misses in this region. Proposed budget for this is $12 million, funded from auxiliary revenues and the utility plant operating expense budget. Project timeline and budget will be finalized as design and construction vendors are selected, design commences, and material lead times are fully understood, with the project anticipated to be completed in the winter of 2025-2026. This item was also fully discussed at the Business and Finance Committee, and I present it to you for your discussion today and approval, hopefully.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve agenda item 11B5?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? And I agree with the President's comments. I think this is a huge safety issue. And, quite frankly, I think it's pretty amazing with the high traffic count through there, as well as the foot traffic, that we haven't had more serious incidents there. So with that, I think this is a great thing to do, and I'll be voting in favor of it. So, and Regent Wilmot?
Just had a question as to, Is there a reason maybe that the city isn't? I mean, is it something that has to be our expense?
I'll turn that over to Ann Barnes, our CFO.
So this is something, again, the Metropolitan Utilities District, they are doing the street repairs. We have been working with the city on the plans to get approval for those. We can obviously seek input from the city in terms of financial support, so we will continue those conversations. But typically, these kind of changes that we are proposing would be something, that we would have to cover because of the location of the crossing on our campus. But we'll pursue that for sure.
Just ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, 42nd Street is one of the streets on the Med Center campus that I believe is not vacated by the city to the ownership and maintenance of the campus. Therefore, this Regent Wilmot's comment is extremely germane as to, who owns the sidewalks and some of the pedestrian walkways. That's something that we'll have to dig into. I can't by any means predict how the city planning authority will respond, but it's worth asking the question.
Push for at least 50-50.
Something.
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Not, please call the roll.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder?
Yes.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor?
Yes.
Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Claire? Motion passes.
The question as to whether we maybe should have amended that motion so that they would, have that in there, but maybe it'll be.
I trust our CFO to get the job done.
Twist arms.
Jenny Bartholomew is sitting here. Rest assured, we'll work on that.
I think these two ladies will be adamant in chasing that down if they
Good.
can squeeze the city for some cost share on it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Regent Schaefer, and I now turn the meeting back over to you for discussion of item 11C1.
Item 11C1 seeks your approval to award the title of Regent Emeritus to Dr. Jim McClurg. In accordance with RP 1.2.6, President Gold and the Executive Committee of the Board have nominated Regent Jim McClurg for the title of Regent Emeritus. Dr. James Edward McClurg is a distinguished leader in biochemistry, biotechnology, and higher education governance. Born in Bassett, Nebraska, Dr. McClurg earned a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Nebraska Wesleyan in 1967 and a PhD in biochemistry from the University of Nebraska College of Medicine in 1973. His impactful career spans academia, industry, and public service, including roles as researcher, professor, and executive leader in scientific innovation. He served on the University of Nebraska Board of Regents from 2002 through 2012. He served as chairman for 2 years of that time. As a founder and former chairman of BioNebraska, Dr. McClurg has been a visionary in advancing bioscience innovation in Nebraska. It is an honor to recommend our friend and our colleague, Dr. Jim McClurg, as a recipient of the honorary title, Regent Emeritus. Is there a motion to approve item 11C1?
So moved.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Anyone like to make any comments about Dr. McClurg's service? Regent Clark?
Yes. I was prepared to make the remarks. I found out exactly 45 seconds ago that I would be able to make some remarks about Regent McClurg. This university is better in part because of Jim McClurg. He instilled the definition of what governance means. He instilled the definition of what process means. He instilled the definition of what doing the right thing means. It's not always the popular thing, but it's the right thing. He left his mark in forming the audit committee and putting together the scope and guidelines for that committee, which is extraordinarily important as you look at what the university is involved with and what all the audit committee entails. He's also been a huge supporter of different facets of our university, including the mentoring of young people. You may not know this, but he was one of the mentors for the group of young men that formed Huddle, and he helped them in their strategic decision making as they were moving that company forward. Huge benefit for Nebraska, and a huge benefit for Lincoln, and a huge benefit for the University of Nebraska. And that's just one company. Jim has done mentorship for all sorts of younger people, continuing to improve on the trajectory of their lives and the lives of their families. I can't think of a better person to get this nomination, this recognition for his years of service on the Board of Regents than Jim McClurg, and it's a real privilege to have the opportunity to participate, and I will be voting in favor of this.
Regent Whites?
As the current chair of the audit committee, I've benefited from his work from so long ago, but it's also sort of synchronistic that this honor comes at this time, because at our meeting yesterday, we were discussing plans for future staffing of the audit staff, and we are hoping to add interns from graduate programs at the university, which I think is in keeping with the mentoring factor that he brought to that work. So I'm very much in favor of this.
Anyone else? President Gold?
Thank you. Well, first, I would like to thank Regent Claire for suggesting that this would be a good time to honor a great citizen of Nebraska and a great leader of our university. And the opportunity to do that should never be taken for granted. But I, too, had the opportunity to work with Dr. McClurg when I first became a member of the university family. At that time, he was the chair of the board of what was known as the Cancer Center Development Corporation, which created the largest public-private partnership, which resulted in the construction and operations of the Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Center, which is now a highly, highly regarded National Cancer Institute designated center of excellence in cancer. His leadership of that group, that 501c3 corporation, which brought a number of critically important disparate partners to the table to be focused on the single highest goal, which was the excellence of the Cancer Center, was truly remarkable. His calm, his leadership, his, by the way, knowledge of Robert's Rules of Order, which was always very impressive, and Tim knows exactly what I mean by that, was instrumental in taking this from a conceptual stage into a reality. So I can tell you it is just a privilege to speak towards supporting this resolution to create a emeritus status for Dr. McClurg, and we should look at ways to honor other great Nebraskans who also have changed the trajectory and the future for this university. Thank you.
Anyone else? I would just like to add that Dr. McClurg represented District 5, except for a few months prior to my starting in as a regent, and spent a fair amount of time with him early on in my career, and always found him to be gracious, kind, and generous with everything that he had available and was willing to share. And so we are definitely a better university and in a better state with his service, and this is clearly a huge benefit to the university to do this for him, talking about giving back, and he gave so much to us over the term of his career, and so this is just a token of our appreciation and sign of respect back to him for thank you. So with that, please call the roll.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder? Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor?
Yes.
Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear? Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Claire?
Yes.
Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Item 11C2 seeks your approval to appoint Ann Barnes to serve on the Exarban Future Trust Board of Directors. Under the Articles of Incorporation of the Exarban Future Trust, the President of the University of Nebraska, with the approval of the Board of Regents, shall appoint one member to the Exarban Future Trust Board. Upon consideration by the Executive Committee of the Board of Regents, it is recommended that the board approve the appointment of Ann Barnes, Interim Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, as the university member of this board for a term of 2 years, commencing January 1, 2025 through December 31, 2026. Is there a motion to approve item 11C2?
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Ann, we'll put you on the spot. Do you have any comments?
Not really, but thank you for the endorsement.
It's my last
You're
time.
most welcome.
This is my last meeting as chair, so I got to put people on the hot seat too. So, no, and I think this is a great appointment, so looking forward to approving you and to serve on that board. Unless there's any other questions, comments, or discussion, let's go ahead and call the roll. Oh, Regent
No, I
Wilmot?
thought maybe Paul did.
Paul, Regent Kenny, do you have a question, or were you just stretching?
Sorry, can you say that again, Paul?
Oh, okay. All right. All right, let's go ahead and call the roll then.
Regent Schroeder? Yes. Regent Adidam? Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Claire? Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor? Motion passes.
Okay. Excuse me. Item 11C3 seeks your approval to amend the University of Nebraska Board of Regents Policy, RP 5.9. The proposed amendments to Rural Policy, or Regents Policy 5.9 clarifies which organizations have the authority to allocate Fund A monies. The amendments also outline allowable and unallowable uses for Fund A support, which may require an appeal, which also sets forth an appeal process for denied expenditures and a mandate that the publication of procedures for students to request Fund A refunds. Is there a motion to approve item 11C3?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Yes, Regent Adidam?
Yeah, oh.
I just wanted to state that I do support the amendment to change Board of Regents Policy 5.9 as it more accurately ensures that student fees are used solely for the collective benefit of our student bodies. This change mitigates the subjectivity for students and staff advisors when determining what can and cannot be purchased on our respective campuses. And I think this also further ensures that students are in proper compliance with the policy, and it is a great step in the right direction to ensure that there is more equitable and fair usage of student fees.
Okay. Regent Wilmot, did you have comments?
Yes. I'd had a Zoom meeting kind of with our attorney and Bren and Drew. And in that, I guess, because as I went through the revisions, I honestly do not see increased guidelines. And I also reviewed the actual audit document, and I found a lot of interesting things that made me think perhaps the real problem or culprit here isn't really the policy as much as it is just how it's being carried out. And I just would mention just a few things. As I looked at it, the audit itself, and here's what makes me have some questions. 14 of 32 transactions tested contained expenditures related to an event. The documentation provided did not include approval of the event that the expenditures were related to. 16 of 32 transactions tested were requests for reimbursements that did not have a prior approval for the purchase, which that's in our policy currently. 30 of 32 transactions tested were for expenditures that did not benefit the broad base of students. All 32 transactions tested lacked evidence that the expenditures were reviewed for compliance with Board of Regents Policy 591 and UNO campus policy. So it started telling me, the guidelines were there, but for some reason it wasn't carried out in that manner. So I personally would like to see an audit on each one of the campuses so we really know how those expenditures are occurring on various campuses. I also saw in some of the things that didn't meet policy, there was travel reimbursements, several things that just, I'm not sure that's what our student fees are for. And there was also an article that came out where when these fees were frozen, that a gentleman, student evidently had complained or was concerned because it froze dollars for menstrual supplies. And as I visited with Bryn and them, I had a hard time understanding why student fees were going there. And what this gentleman had said in his interview was, what if I have a girlfriend or my sister's in my apartment and she needs those kind of supplies? And I know that I attended college a long time ago, but we took care of those things ourselves. We didn't see that as a student fee expenditure. And the reason, I guess, I see things like Planned Parenthood, Health and Human Services. There's a lot of agencies that assist when people have needs. And the only response I got back basically was, well, I think it's more about the fact that, that's more easy to get to. It's easier. So I just think we have a deeper look here before we really feel that we have a policy need.
Do we have any other Regent, Herman?
Well, I want to say that for the past few months, all 4 of us student regents and our student affairs officials from all of our campuses, as well as previously mentioned officials from the system, we've all worked through the updates to this policy. It's been a little bit unclear in the past, and so I was grateful for this opportunity. Although there have been hiccups throughout the years, I just want to reinforce that all student government officials, our aim is to follow these policies, and our commitment is to ensuring that as many students as possible benefit from our programming and our initiatives. Even with this policy change, this will remain our primary commitment, and I'm really supportive of these edits as I feel that students will feel the positive impacts of student programming through this policy still. It will allow accuracy, efficiency, and most importantly, more clear guidelines in navigating the expenditure of student fees.
Okay, Chancellor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I am a big believer to comprehend internal audit. It sometimes is of consultation nature and also provide guidelines for our students. So I'm very supportive of the revisions and appreciate that this was, like our student region just mentioned, a collaborative effort to include feedback from our students and leadership from each campus. These changes provide welcome clarity on the appropriate use of the funds, result in what I call a stronger financial policy for our university. And we remain committed to being strong financial stewards, and I believe that this update will assist us in providing guardrails so that funds are being utilized for the intended purposes.
Thank you. Regent Shear.
And I'm not diminishing the amount of work that everyone put in, but the one thing that I think about is this was brought up because of a problem that was discovered on the UNO campus. And I'm wondering, it sort of throws UNO under the bus, and I agree with Senator Wilmot that perhaps we need to look at other campuses as well to make sure policy may need improvement. I'm not going to argue that, but was that the only campus that we were having problems, or is it a system-wide problem on all the campuses that we were having use of funds that weren't necessarily approved. And I guess that was my concern. We haven't changed the fact that we had I mean, to me, it's a personnel problem more so than anything, because we had people that weren't following the policies. And we can have this could be the best policy in the world, but if we don't have people that will follow the policies, or that are following the policies, I'm not sure changing rules don't do any good if people don't follow the rules. And so I'm just wondering if we shouldn't be making a more system-wide approach to make sure that the policies, and maybe everybody else is following those, but I think it would be beneficial to not just isolate one campus from the others. I think we should look and make sure that follow through on the other campuses as well.
President Gold was up next, then we'll come back to you, Regent Whites.
Well, I appreciate your comments on this, and I'm harking back to 4 to 5 years ago when the internal audit process looked at all student fees, Fee A and Fee B, and made some very significant recommendations to all of our campuses, which resulted not only in policy change, but resulted in accounting structures, expenditures, and other such things, which were then monitored in follow-up by the internal audit group. There is an ongoing, according to Mr. Justice, sequence for re-auditing all of Fund A and Fund B expenditures on all of our campuses, literally ongoing as we speak. And this was discussed at least briefly at our Audit and Compliance Committee meeting yesterday afternoon, and Mr. Justice reassured us, and frankly reassured me, that all of the campuses' processes will be looked at by the end of this academic semester with report back to the Audit and Compliance Committee. There is no question that no matter how good a policy is, if there's not monitoring and reporting of that monitoring back to the governing body, it loses its authority over a period of time. The current ongoing evaluation is on the Lincoln campus, and the Med Center and UNK are going to follow in short order. So I feel comfortable whether the policy changes meet the needs or don't meet the needs. That is up to the Board of Regents to determine. But the fact that there is ongoing internal audit monitoring is accurate.
Okay, Regent Whites.
Well, President Gold covered the first part of my discussion about our meeting yesterday at audit. My second one is some of this may be education of the people who hold the offices who are applying the rules. And I think it's very hard. There are so many, but I think it's important that we know that there be orientation in critical issues like how budgets are formed and decide how decisions are made on finances. And I think the student regents have been talking about this, and I feel confident that the audit committee is taking care of the internal audit piece of it. So I feel very comfortable with this.
Regent Schroeder.
I wanted to say I agree with Regent Scheer's comments about this, personnel issue. But I think the question before us is, how do you legislate and ingrain a policy that prevents improper or inappropriate expenditures without restricting the ability for the student voice and for student leadership campuses? This is a very important Regents policy for what we do on our campuses. This is our fund that we use to draw from to fulfill our campaign promises and to better our campuses and our student bodies. I appreciate Drew's work from this throughout the whole process. He had this student regent input, and at the beginning of this process of amending 5.9, there were some amendments that were restrictive and maybe could satisfy some of our elected regents better. But I think that they would have placed great limitations on our student governments on what we spend money on. This year, UNK student government, we've made investments into our, mental health groups, our campus ROTC, international student organizations, and campus-wide events. And some of these proposals with restrictions that may satisfy you better were, wouldn't allow us to do things like that. So I think what we have today is a non-restrictive policy that provides guidance more than anything. And if you are concerned about ensuring that there is a mechanism to prevent proper expenditures from happening, I think that's why we have the people behind me, and I think that's why we have student government elections and impeachment clauses to hold ourselves accountable to our student bodies.
Well, I have an additional concern, and I totally agree with the type of expenditures that you are making at Kearney. I don't agree with $85 going for a sex toy basket at the drag homecoming. There's something that we're missing here, and I don't think it's the policy. You took the policy at Kearney, it sounds like, and again, we haven't had an audit, and I don't see a problem there in what he's just saying. I have some problems, though, in some other areas, and therefore I come back to I'm not sure it's a policy that we really have a problem with. I think it's maybe I think a lot of it was not going through an approval process that's already in policy that I just pointed out in the audit. And that may be where we really need to focus.
It sounds like to me your issue's not so much with the policy as it's proposed, but with the enforcement and carrying out of the terms and provisions of it.
No, because
Okay.
I didn't get close. I guess I hate to say it, but my understanding from my conversation with the attorney and with Drew, and I specifically asked, so if we go with these revisions, then is it okay to spend money that way? And the interpretation was yes, because the drag shows would be open to all students, therefore all students, broad base. I've got a problem with some of that, and I'm not sure that a broad base of our students really see their fees going, and I'm just picking that one out. I could go through the list and give you some more. But I don't know that our students who are having to pay more tuition now, they want to come for an education, then they face these fees. Do they know what's happening with their money, and would they agree? And yes, then I'm going to be told that by policy they can, get those fees back.
They can opt out.
Yeah, well, they can opt out. But again, you can ask a lot of students and they don't even realize that. So we haven't even given our students the benefit of knowing that they have a little control over those fees that they feel are mandated to them.
Well, as a lawyer, ignorance of the law is no excuse, is what we tell people all the time. And so we make it available, but
maybe we
we
need
can
to emphasize it.
We can tell them about it, but we can't understand it for them or force them to understand it or even try to want to learn it and understand. So I think as long as we've made our policies public and they're available for the curious individuals to look at, then we've done our job. So I guess the question at this point is, are we willing to take this policy as we have it in front of us right now and move it forward for an up or down vote? Or is someone feel like there's more work to be done on this, refining it, or questions, or are there further audits that would make sense to have done before we do that? What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, definitely if they think they can have the audits done by the end of, would you say, the semester or what, fiscal year. I don't know why we wouldn't wait, find out what the real problem is. Maybe it is the policy, maybe it's the training, but I think that gives us a clearer picture before we make that decision.
I just wanted to quickly clarify something. So I guess my reason for supporting this policy is that I think the term broad-based is very subjective, and outlining what specific parameters in the policy can and cannot be used for student fees is a lot more helpful for us. As students, we essentially turn over every 4 years. So there's high turnover and lack of education, especially when in UNO Student Government Association, for context, we've had 5 advisors over my 4 years. So not having constant support and having that knowledge transfer over year after year has made it really hard to really understand the policies, and having that support structure has essentially caused all these issues. But I'm very hopeful. Last week, we actually redid our entire policy, created 3 checks and balances within our student government where it goes to Senate, and then our Director of Finance, and then our staff advisor for approval, and then further approval from our Division of Student Life and Wellbeing. And I'm very confident that within this new policy that there is a way for us to come out of this and feel supported. For instance, this year we're planning on expanding our student legal services to help everyone. We've installed sustainable transportation by partnering with Heartland B-Cycle to provide $5 bike passes for everyone to get around campus. So we do amazing work. This just further ensures that our work is in compliance with the Regents policy versus figuring out what broad-based truly means.
Whites?
People are messy. And if you're given a budget for an event and you can buy prizes, unless you list every single item category that's allowed or not allowed, it feels as though this is an example of a broader issue in our world context. But beyond that, individuals act individually, and they know the rules, and they know that they have a budget for prizes, for instance, and they might buy something that we wouldn't really approve of their buying. But I think trying to govern every individual purchase under budgets becomes really messy. And I think once in a while, there's going to be someone who's going to break the rules. We've seen it. And we've understood that it was a broken rule. They know it was broken. They won't do it again. So I'm kind of feeling like this has been worked on very hard by people who are the most affected by putting it in place. And the audit is doing its job in terms of auditing where the finances are and if they're being used appropriately and according to our guidelines. So I'm in favor of approving this. I think we have opportunities to amend it if we discover that there's an issue that needs more attention than it's getting now. But I think we need to honor the time and energy and work and thoughtfulness that we've put into this revision, and I'm very much going to vote yes.
Regent Shear, you had your hand up, I thought.
Yes. In relationship to Barb's comments, I don't disagree with those. I think there may be a more internal problem as far as instruction or education for those that are involved as far as supervision. I guess my point was somewhat the same. It is a policy. It can be changed. My biggest concern is the funds for the students to use have been embargoed until something's passed. And I don't know that we can wait till the end of the semester. You then have wasted a semester's use of those funds that haven't been available. And I think that's a bigger travesty to the majority of the students not to have those funds.
Okay. And I concur with those comments. I do believe if further revision is needed in the future, we can come right back in and make another modification if need be, if that is merited. So with that, let's go ahead and call the question and call the roll.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder?
Yes.
Regent Shear? Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
No.
Regent Clare?
Yes.
Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor?
Yes.
Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Regent Schaefer, there are also numerous reports for the board's review.
I accept the reports listed in the agenda on behalf of the board. Is there a motion for closed session? Regent Shear?
Yes, I move that the Board of Regents goes into closed session as authorized by Section 84-1410 of the Revised Statutes of Nebraska for the protection of public interest to prevent the needless injury of the reputation of persons who have not requested a public hearing for the purposes of holding discussion limited to the following subject: honorary degrees and awards.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Call the roll.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder?
Yes.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes, if we can have a bio break in between.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Clare? Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor? Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Let the minutes of this meeting reflect that this closed session shall be strictly limited to discussion of only the following subject: honorary degrees. We are now in closed session. As you leave the room, please take with you all your recording devices and personal belongings. We will go ahead and take a 10-minute break and reconvene by that clock on the wall at 11:25.
You worked all of it.
Okay, it's now 11:53. Let it record reflect that we are now back in open session. Do I have a motion and a second on agenda item 11A1, the award of honorary degrees and awards as amended?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder? Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Thavaro? Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot? Regent Clare? Regent Kenny? Regent O'Connor?
Yes.
Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. In accordance with our standing rules, the vice chair automatically assumes the position of chair at our annual meeting. As such, Regent Kinney will now serve as chair of the Board of Regents. I'd like to just say thank you for allowing me to serve this past year as your board chair. I think we accomplished our one greatest task of being a board and for the University of Nebraska, and that was installing this fine gentleman here to my right as our president. I know he's doing an outstanding job. I've been all over the state and country in recent months, and everywhere I go, people have accolades and nothing but great things to say about President Gold and our selection of him to be our president. So I know we're on a great trajectory with him, and we should all be able to sleep at night knowing that he's at the helm. So with that, Regent Kinney, you're now, it's now your meeting.
Thank you, sir. Get away from this echo. Dr. Gold, could you step in my place and present the gavel?
Thank you, Regent Kinney. So it is my pleasure on behalf of the University of Nebraska and on behalf of the Board of Regents to present to Chair Robert Schaefer, the Board of Regents of the University of Nebraska, recognition for his service during the last year. I think we all know that this last year has been long and complex for many different reasons, of which many of us, myself included, are intimately aware. But I would say, job well done, Rob. I appreciate your leadership, your friendship, your devotion to the future of the university, and thank you. Regent Kinney, it's back to you.
Thank you.
He said that I'm not. Now we'll take nominations for vice chairman.
I'd like to nominate Regent Whites.
Nominations made for Regent Weiss. Is there any other nominations? And you'll have to help me if the mic isn't, I can't hear anything.
I believe Regent Wilmot had, were you going to make a nomination? I'm going to nominate Regent Shear.
Any other nominations?
I move nominations cease.
Motion's been made to make nominations cease. Do we need?
Yes.
Call?
Wait, can you clarify what? We're just voting to
Are you voting to close nominations? Okay. Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll.
Yes. Regent Schroeder,
Yes.
Regent Adidam,
Yes.
Regent Thavaro, Regent Herbin,
Yes.
Regent Wilmot.
Is this just to call the roll?
It's just to close nominations.
Close. Yes.
Regent Clare, Regent Kenny, Regent O'Connor,
Yes.
Regent Schaefer,
Yes.
Regent Shear, Regent Stark,
Yes.
Regent Whites.
Yes.
Motion passes. Section 1.2 of the standing rules provides that when there is more than one nominee for an office, then the elections are conducted by secret ballot. Before each of you are some slips of paper which will serve as ballots. The 8 elected regents will vote on the blue-colored ballots, and our student regents will register their position on yellow-colored paper. Regent Kenny will submit his vote via email to me as approved by the interim vice president and general counsel. I will then write his vote on a blue-colored ballot and include it with the others collected. Please write your selection clearly on your ballot. A nominee shall win the vote with a majority of the quorum, which is 5 votes. I will announce the results from both the elected regents and the position of the student regents and record those results in the minutes.
Don't want to be accused of I had 2 for a while, too. Felt like stiff paper, but I guess it was 2.
The votes having been counted, Regent Whites has received 3 votes. Regent Shear has received 5 votes. Student regents voted 3 in favor of Regent Whites, with 1 student regent abstaining.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Congratulations, Regent Shear. Looking forward to working with you as well as continuing to work with Regent Whites and others on the board. So, does anyone have any comments? If not,
I have a comment.
Okay.
I just want to say, from my perspective as a regent, I think that Jim is going to do a fantastic job as vice chair. He has a lot of leadership, and I'm sure that he will work with all of us, and he's a dedicated servant to Nebraska, and I know that he'll serve with commitment. I do have a concern that this board is devolving into a lot of partisanship, and I want to remind everyone that we are a nonpartisan body, and our responsibility to the university should rise above politics. Unfortunately, the last couple of years have seen increasing division, and board decisions too often have been made by just a few select regents, and they've been based on political maneuvering. And I hope that in this next year, we can continue to work together, and I look forward to working with Chair Kenny, but I'm very disappointed in the way that some of these decisions have been made.
Regent Kenny, are you back with us now?
Sorry, yes, now.
Except for the echo. Does anyone else have a comment?
Does anyone else have a comment?
Seeing none, congratulations, Jim, and I think we stand adjourned.
I have one question, not particularly the meeting, but one of the announcements I got laying here, I don't know if anybody else had them, it mentioned the ag builders, but the date of it was January 14th. Is it accurate? Do you know?
I don't know, but I don't know that that's something we have to address still
Well, not
while
with
we're
the
in
board,
session.
but I just wanted to know before we left if I could.
Clear that up maybe afterwards. It's in my notes there, we are going to have a facilities corporation meeting immediately following the board meeting, though.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else?
Have a facilities court meeting.
I meant to adjourn.
All right. I'll hit the gavel for you.